drive-through penalty for us for being a few minutes late. It's all
No,
right.
we were
We're here.
serving the drive-through. It's okay.
That's right. That's why we're a few minutes. Anyways, welcome back to the Rain Race podcast. It's been 3 weeks since we've been with you here. But we got a lot to talk about in this episode. We've got another IMSA race to recap. Of course, VIR, GT-only round. Quite a few things to unpack from that race. A pretty defining race for IMSA this season. We're also going to be discussing some news with BMW for next year. And then we have some LMP2 IMSA news to round off the episode. And of course, any of your questions as well. Silly, serious, drop them in the chat. We'll get to those as we can. Stu, how are you doing tonight?
It's good. It's good. We're coming off kind of I think VIR, it's safe to say, is kind of like a sign that the end of summer is near. It feels like, which is always sad, but it also means that the championship is in full focus right now. We're full speed ahead on those championship fights, and it's gonna be a heck of a run through these final couple rounds. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be an IMSA fan or a sports car racing fan in general. We're gonna have. I don't think we're gonna talk about it today, but we have the WEC Lone Star Le Mans round that's right around the corner. With the Indy 6 hour, of course, you have Petit Le Mans. You have the WEC finale. There's some great racing to be had here over the next couple of months. So you got to be excited about that, right?
Didn't even throw in the longest of all of those races being the Petit Le Mans, Motul Petit Le Mans to
Yep.
round off the IMSA season. So
Bingo.
plenty to look forward to. It's funny to say we're in the last two races of the IMSA season, but we still have 16 hours of racing to look forward to there. On the
Where did
WEC
the
side,
season go?
like 14
Where did it all
hours.
go?
So, no, even more than WEC because we have two 6-hour races left and then the 8 hours to round out the season. So, 20 hours of racing left over there. Let's kick things off tonight. Let's talk about VIR. I talked about how this was a defining race. Honestly, maybe the defining race for IMSA this season, to be honest with you. It might be a bold claim. But what we saw out of IMSA this race, what were you and I talking about last episode? We were very critical of how they've been handling the driving standards in the series, not just this season. We've talked about it year in, out for the past couple of seasons now. And IMSA took a massive stand against that from lap one at the race this weekend. Of course, that's the main thing I want to talk about. I want to start off with some of your thoughts on that, and then we'll sort of go from there.
Yeah, I think that this is... there were a few big takeaways for me from this race, but yeah, the race control really laying down the law early was one of the big ones. And yeah, as you alluded to, we talked about it in the past, like Road America, we could not have a repeat of Road America, and we still cannot have a repeat of Road America when we head to Indy. So I think it was very important in this race that IMSA come out and lay down the law early and make sure that the drivers, the teams, everybody knew that, like, we're not going to stand for a repeat of Road America. You guys need to get yourselves in line, and you need to show some more respect to each other out on track. And I think that there's an argument to be had, and I know that there's plenty of fans that were walking away from this race, kind of disappointed, complaining. You could even go as far as to say about race control stepping in and being that strict. But when we're coming off a round like we had at Road America, it was needed. I'm pleased with the driving standards that we ultimately ended up seeing at VIR. The penalties that were handed out were generally speaking, from all the ones that I can remember, I don't really remember one sticking out to me as, oh, that's an egregious call, or that's an egregious incident. But race control let it be known that, like, they were going to take this seriously, and they did that. So I'm sure that was discussed in the drivers' meeting. I'm sure that the drivers had plenty of heads up on what was coming. And while there were some complaints from drivers, fans, everybody, I think it was needed after what we saw in Road America.
It's interesting you talk about the driver response to it. to me, at least watching the NBC side of things, I don't know what they were saying on IMSA TV/IMSA radio. The drivers and teams seemed pretty okay with it, to be honest. Again, that's the broadcast I was listening to. I know you were on a different feed. So Will Turner was the first one that stood out to me. They interviewed him pretty early in the race. And I was expecting him to be throwing the hammer at IMSA, saying this is too far in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly those lap 1 calls to me were the biggest surprise.
Yeah.
We had 2 calls on lap 1, right, for two different drive-throughs. That is a scenario I personally would excuse, unless it was absolutely egregious. But I thought the team response to that and the driver response would be very critical. And from what I heard, the common consensus was basically, we're okay with this as long as they're going to be consistent about it.
Yep.
And I assume that means they expect this to continue into future races. But curious to see hear the other side of that, because I know you're sort of hinting that maybe it wasn't quite the same feedback all around.
There was definitely some. I believe that I can't remember if it was. I think it was Philippe Ellis that they interviewed at the beginning of the race in GTD, and I believe that he had some critical words. I don't remember if Windward was one of the cars that picked up one of those early drive-throughs, or if they avoided that. I think they were involved in one, though. I think one of the Vassar Sullivan Lexuses got picked up one of those early penalties. But I remember that there was some more. It wasn't all rainbows and sunshine on the IMSA radio broadcast. Definitely a little bit more criticism, but that was early in the race too, when we saw kind of that cluster of those penalties together. But I don't think there's an argument, that you could put forward that say that it didn't work. Like, largely what we saw in this race was pretty respectful racing. We still got to see hard racing. Like, we saw battles for those podium spots in the final hour of this race, but we saw nothing egregious in the final hour of that race. There was at least one critical penalty handed out right at the end of the race, which I think that there's maybe a solid argument for that one to be had as maybe not necessary, but I don't. The proof is in the pudding, right? Like, we didn't get any crazy, egregious, dives up the inside, sending it on one another. We did see some mirrors coming off. That's fine. A little bit of side by side contact between two drivers that are just racing close together. Like, stuff like that is going to happen. It doesn't need a penalty, but I think at the end of the day, while there was maybe a little bit of response from some of the drivers, that largely, like you said, if they stay consistent like this and we maintain this standard of, we're not going to put up with any shenanigans for the rest of the season, then I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I'll give you my 2 cents on the whole thing. I can't really sit here and be proud of myself and say, oh, I think they went too far in the other direction this race. They were handing out penalties too loosely today. Or not today, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
After I just spent the entire last episode saying that the driving standards are horrific and they need to do something about it. That deep down, that is how I feel. I do think they went a little bit too far. I've said the same thing about the WEC before. I think in the WEC, the penalties are a little bit too strict. The punishment doesn't really fit what's the phrase here I'm looking for? The crime. There we go. And so I would argue the same thing here a little bit. What I will say is, I think more than anything else, this was a statement from IMSA, particularly towards the GT classes, because GTD and GTD Pro this season, by and large, have been pretty much the two classes where you and I have been throwing the brunt of this. The racing standards are getting a bit out there.
Yeah.
And what a better an opportunity than a race where those two classes have the spotlight to sort of throw the book at both of them and say, look, you know what? We're not going to tolerate this. We have championship battles that are very close in both classes, getting towards that final race of the season. Petit Le Mans, very likely going to have a late race safety car, as it always seems to. Clean up the act now before we have controversy at Petit Le Mans in a month and a half time. To me, that's the way I saw IMSA approaching this race. I'm curious to see how they carry that into an endurance race at Indianapolis.
Yep.
But certainly, if they're carrying that same mentality at the 6 hours, it's going to be pretty big for the season finale.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I feel like, with the season kind of being a bit spaced out like it is, we routinely, it's generally speaking, 2 or 3 weeks off between races. You can kind of forget what we've seen so far this season. You think back to the Rolex 24 and you think of the shenanigans that went on between BMW and Corvette and all that ensued there. Like, sure, that was entertaining for one race, but we don't need to see that in every single race. And what we ended up seeing transpire at the end of this race on a really positive note was we saw a good battle. I know that VIR isn't the easiest track on the calendar to pass at. There are limited passing opportunities, but we saw some good overtakes being made at the beginning of this stint. You saw in the final stint of this race, Dragon Speed was charging. Dragon Speed was one of the quickest cars all weekend. And, they started behind the 2 Corvettes at the beginning of that final stint. They made a good, clean pass around the 4 Corvette. The 4 Corvette, not really in the championship hunt, well aware of what the championship implications are between their sister 3, who was leading, and that 81 Ferrari, how important it was to keep the Dragon Speed Ferrari behind them. But, if this was what we saw happen at Road America or, some of the previous rounds of the season, do we see that battle transpire differently? And we don't get, instead of getting that good, hard battle between Dragon Speed and the Corvette, do we just get, an egregious block, some contact where somebody gets pushed off a little bit and there's not really a battle there? Like, is that what is, and if that's the case, if the result of IMSA putting, that the stricter, having race control be a bit more strict and laying down the law, if that gave us that better battle, then that's what we as fans want to see at the end of the day, right? Like, we don't want it to become demolition derby, just bump and runs all day. Like, that's not what I understand. That sports car racing, especially in North America and IMSA, has always been a little bit more elbows out. But there was definitely a line that was crossed there. And I thought that I hope that we continue to see the driving standards improve and get cleaned up over these next couple of races, with hopefully that level of involvement from race control reduced at the same time. Hopefully drivers got the message from this for the rest of this season, going forward, we're not going to take it. And, if you're in a championship fight, then like you need to be respectful of those that you're racing around. And if you're not in a championship fight, you need to be respectful of those that you're racing around. So hopefully that's the takeaway from this one. And we're not talking, it doesn't evolve into a conversation about race control being too strict every week. So that's the hope.
Yeah, I guess what we decide after Indy is going to be the real conversation piece. So have to wait and see what we get out of that one. That's not all we have to talk about for VIR, though. Of course, we're talking about these 2 GT classes. We had them both in the spotlight here. We're talking about the championship battles going on here. Let's kick things off with GTD Pro. Talking about the race results here. This was, believe it or not, actually the first race win of the season for the championship leading number 3 Corvette. I think I made a quick note about that in our last episode on how they've been very close but chasing a win all season. Finally were able to secure that, as you said, over the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari. I personally, maybe it's just me saying this because the 81 was my pick, I think the 81 had the fastest car all weekend. I think the 3 car played the game perfectly. They know that this is a track that's difficult to pass. They know that IMSA is cracking down on cars making bumper to bumper contact in this race. They just had to not make mistakes, and they really did that in that final green flag stint. That's all they had to do here. It was only 1 second between the top two at the end of the race, but keep that 81 car in the dirty air, and it's going to be pretty difficult for them to find their way by. So there you go for Corvette. Number 3 finally on the board this season and extending that championship lead they had going in.
And that's the 7th different winner in GTD Pro of the 8 races that we've had this year. You think about that, there's only 10 full season cars in this class. So, so there's an impressive amount of parity. Is parity the right word, I guess, to throw around here?
Yeah,
like across the different manufacturers, the different teams. We've seen a lot of different winners this year, which you love to see. And as you're alluding to with the championship, it's a close one. It's going to be a tight battle going into the final 2 rounds of the season.
Yeah. Some more comments from you on the GTD Pro racing we saw.
Yeah, I think to kind of, I guess, piggyback off that note of kind of manufacturer parity a little bit here. We saw lots of different manufacturers being strong at different times of the race. You want to talk about the one constant in all of it was probably the Dragon Speed Ferrari. I feel like they ran third. They ran in the podium positions. It felt like the entire race, whether they were trailing the Paul Miller Racing BMWs or at the end of the race, they were making that charge on the Corvettes. But just seeing the different manufacturers be strong at different times of the race. I said we had BMW that was they led the opening portion of the race. They really looked in control. And then after they lost a bit of track position on the first round of pit stops and kind of got transferred around, who is leading that race. But the Corvettes, like you said, they played that perfectly. They played, I think it was their one of their middle race pit stops that they really gained that advantage and were able to leap ahead of everybody. Then, and that really propelled them for that final stint of the race. And you talk about the Ferrari, probably the Dragon Speed, I think pretty clearly the quickest car of the weekend, definitely could have won this race had they had a bit better track position there at the end. And we can't forget about Ford either. The 64 Ford Mustang, they finished second here last year. Another solid race for them, picking up a 4th place finish just off the podium. But Ford quietly had a solid weekend here in GTD Pro. So yeah, it was. I enjoyed the racing. This weekend. I think I was trying to put my thoughts together for the recap video that I'm putting together, and what really came to my mind was just like it felt like there was a lot of good, hard, pure racing that we saw in this race, like some classic racing at an IMSA old school type track. So I walked away from this race happy. I thought it was a solid race to watch. It's probably not going to be the race that we remember most come the end of the season. But yeah, it was an enjoyable race to watch, and we saw a really good final stint, which is what you always kind of look for in these races. Leave everybody goes home happy after seeing some good battles at the end.
Yeah. Interesting earlier point you mentioned, we only have 2 cars remaining of those full season entrants that haven't won a race.
Yeah.
It'd be 3 cars actually, right?
Vassar Sullivan and the 4 Corvette.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yep. That's right. 14 Vassar Sullivan.
Yep.
Yep.
So we're not going to get the perfect. We're not going to get the perfect 10 for 10.
No, I know.
As AO is 1-2, but we could get close. We could get close.
Could get close. I'm looking at I had to pull up the results from the rest of the season, and I guess it shouldn't be surprising given the fact that they're 1-2 in the championship. But I think by and large, the 3 and the 81 have been more consistent than the rest of the class throughout the season. Yeah. Particularly the 81, I think, has been the most surprising in this summer stretch. Been on the podium every race since Watkins Glen.
Yep.
And the 3 car, not too far off. Since Detroit, they were second, fourth, and then, of course, a win here. And both of them really only have one standout result that sort of brought them down. For the 3 car, it was Sebring. And for the 81, it was Detroit. I guess the 81
Yeah.
also was outside the top 5 at Daytona as well. But
Well, yeah, they have two. They have two finishes outside the top 4. Like
right.
that's impressive.
And I've been singing the praise of Dragon Speed for the past few races now, ever since, especially during this summer stretch.
Yep.
The consistency we're seeing out of a team that's a first full-time gig in GTD Pro. I know they were there the last few races of last season. First full season attack at it, though. They are genuine championship contenders. I'll say it again. And
Yeah.
if they can claw some points back on the 3 car out of Indianapolis, we might be talking about them as potential champions come Road Atlanta.
We know that anything could happen at Petit Le Mans, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully nothing like too crazy, though. Just,
yes.
Keep the cars on track and
Yeah, keep everything clean, keep the fenders on it, but yeah, it's shaping up. GTD Pro is probably shaping up to be arguably our best championship fight. So that's going to be fun to watch these last couple rounds.
yeah. Talking about GTD Pro a little bit more here, one more point I want to make. Tough race for Paul Miller Racing. It looked like this could have been a race for them to run away with it. They were 1-2 for the first part of the race. I knew, with track position really being king here, that as long as they didn't get affected by anything too major, they were in control of the race. And I don't see any reason they couldn't have won, had the cars gone in their favor. Of course, the 48 car had an engine issue during that race, so that took them out of the running entirely. But even the sister number 1 car finished outside of the top 5 as well. So unfortunate running for them, considering how strong things looked earlier in the race. But they're definitely going to be looking for a rebound going forward.
Yeah, it was they kind of surprised me a little bit at the beginning of the race. I know this has been a track that has been, pretty nice to the BMW M4 platform over the years, and so you kind of expected that Paul Miller Racing would be solid, but yeah, a little bit of maybe a bit of a blunder, a bit of a strategy blunder there at the end of the first stint, losing some track position on their pit stops. I can't remember if they boxed early or if they were one of the later ones that came into box, but regardless, they lost some track position as a result. And then once they were back in traffic, it was they just kind of weren't able to make the progress through the field to get back to the front. So difficult weekend for them. Where did they ended up finishing? 6th, and then of course the last place finish for the 48. So after a strong opening to the race, they're probably going to be extra hungry heading into to Indianapolis.
Yeah. All right, you want to move things to GTD here?
Yeah, let's talk some GTD. Another class that was solid, I thought.
Yeah. Take the lead on this one if you want.
All right. So GTD, in classic GTD fashion, the comers and goers that you see throughout the racing in GTD is always fun and difficult sometimes to stay on top of. But much like GTD Pro, we had I think it's safe to say, a barn burner of a finish in GTD. The results are going to point towards Windward Racing. It's another strong Windward Racing win here. Their 3rd win of the season, the only team in GTD that has multiple wins this year. It was a deserved victory for them. Kind of a bit of an up and down race for them. They got caught up in whatever. I can't remember if they were the bumpy or the bumped. I believe that they were the bumped at the beginning of this race.
Man.
Yeah. After a really strong start, or after a strong qualifying effort, they qualified in 2nd, I believe it was. They had dropped down really towards the the mid to back part of GTD very early on. I believe it was the Vas Sullivan, one of the Vas Sullivan Lexuses that bumped them off on that opening lap. The Lexus picked up the drive-through penalty, but anyways, they fell back, and it was really just kind of a charge back through the race for Windward. The Mercedes platform proved to be very, very strong this weekend. Once again, it's been good. VIR has been good to Mercedes in the past, but it wasn't just Mercedes that was performing here. Lamborghini, another car that has looked good here in the past. The 78 was kind of leading the charge there. They led, how many laps? It was they led 27 laps in this race. So they had a solid run themselves. And then, unfortunately for them, they were battling with another very strong entry in this one, the 021 Ferrari, and who's, of course, coming off that win at Watkins Glen. Kenton Cook, the closing driver for that car, he won this race last year in a Mercedes. So the 78 picked up a blocking penalty on the 021. They were given that penalty on the last lap of the race. They were running second, and that demoted them all the way back to the last place runner in GTD with that time penalty that was applied post race. So they finished 12th in class. Not a finish that represents how strong they were in this race. They very easily had a chance to win this race. They were very strong, hanging with the 57 Mercedes in that final stint, and just unfortunately picked up that blocking penalty. Maybe that was one that I think you might be able to argue was a little bit soft, a little bit questionable. I guess you could maybe argue that on a lot of the other penalties as well. But really unfortunate for them to have picked up that penalty. But what it meant was another really strong run for the 021 Ferrari. Like I said, the Ferraris were strong all weekend long here, and they pick up a really nice finish as well. And then the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. They were pretty quiet all race long, but they pick up a third place finish to at least remain in the GTD championship discussion. There's the points gap grew, of course, with our 2 points leaders, both winning in their respective classes. But the Heart of Racing Aston Martin did a solid job of getting what they could out of this race. And I know you also mentioned the 96 at Turner Motorsports, and the conversation that they had with Will Turner at the beginning of the race. They picked up one of those beginning of the race penalties, I believe.
Yeah, they were one of the lap ones.
So they rebounded from that. They persevered after that and were able to pick up a fourth place finish. And then this might be one of the best runs of the season for the 66 Gradient Racing Ford. Just quietly went about their business and picked up a top 5. So I thought, GTD, we're talking about all these finishers, like the top, everybody was separated by about a second and a half there at the end of this race in this class. And it was, again, like GT Pro, it was a fun final stint to watch.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. I don't remember if that, because they had the incident with the Gradient Mustang, so I can't remember if that was lap 1 or if that was like a few laps into the race. But whatever. We had 6 drive-throughs there in that race. So
yeah, I'm looking at their running position, and they dropped to like last place in GTD on lap 8. So it would have been just coming out of that full course yellow that they probably picked that up.
Yeah. You brought up a good point there with Lamborghini. One of the things we didn't even talk about, of course, was the 45.
Yeah, true. And
very thankful that Danny Formel walked out of that one okay by all things considered. Huge fire. Did we determine, was it ever reported what the issue was there?
No, the only info that I could find, like scouring the post-race notes, was that the team was going to do an investigation and into what the cause was. But you got to think like something like that with the size of sort of the fireball that that was and the size of the fire that was coming out of that car. It's got to be like a fuel line or something that broke, and this was just coming off of the final pit stop of the race too. So it's not like there was a small amount of fuel that was in the car either. There was a significant, it's a fairly full tank. So really scary incident. There's some incredible images that that Jordan Lenson caught. And they're on his Instagram. If you haven't seen those already, it's pretty incredible how large that fire was, and just thankful that Danny was able to walk away from that with as minimal damage to himself as possible. I think picked up some fairly minor burns on his nose and lips, but won't miss, is not reported not going to miss the next race, and is actually supposed to be back in the car, I believe, next week doing some prep work for Indy. So so good to see Danny walk away from that one. That was a scary one.
Yeah, and I sort of draw some comparisons there with both Lamborghinis in that class to what we saw at CTMP only a few races back, where both of them very strong, especially late in the race. I know it's a bit different circumstances for Forte this race, but similar story as to what happened to CTMP, where both of them were pretty strong, and then you look at the finishing results, it would look like it was a disastrous day for both of them. But that doesn't really tell the whole story.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I feel like we've talked a lot about the 45 this year and some of the bad luck that they have had.
It's a Wayne Taylor racing car, of course it would.
Yeah, that's true. You think back to the Rolex, they had that broken suspension in the final hour when they were leading. There was another race where they were running really well. I can't remember what race it was, and they wrecked. They did finally get a win in here. I believe, was it CTMP that they grabbed the win at? It may have been. They got that win at some point. I can't remember what race it was. But and then even today, like, they were running strong in the early stint of this race. That for a time that they were running in third, ran a bunch of this race in fourth. They were running fifth at the time when this accident occurred. So, you think about a couple of different results here and there where they go from, horrible points to, maybe some podium points or top 4, top 5 points. And like, with how close GTD has been, they could have been in the championship hunt this season. So it really does seem like the Lamborghini is improving with some of the results. We've seen some solid runs out of Forte. We've seen some solid runs out of Faf as well, but just really a lot of bad luck, it seems to be, has plagued that car. And we're going to get the new Temerario next year. So see if it kind of builds on the Huracan, but yeah, maybe Lamborghini a little bit plagued, it seems like, with some bad luck this year. And then that continued here at VIR with that fiery incident.
Yeah. Chalk up an L for me. I completely forgot that they rebounded and won CTMP after they got spun earlier in the race. So, that's my fault. But take that point, throw it in the bin. Okay. Forte at least did have sort of a similar story.
Yeah.
From what they had at CTMP, but no, at that point it's a bit null.
I don't blame you, because the amount of bad luck that the 45 has had over the course of the season, it's it can be easy to forget some of those good moments that they've had.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess if we want to round things off, just quickly going over the championship. I know we usually do this after every race, but we only have 2 classes to go over here, and we've talked about the GTD Pro class in particular, how that championship battle is pretty warm right now. Of course, it's between those 2 most consistent cars, at least in my opinion, that we've seen this year, between the 3 and the 81 Corvette versus Ferrari for the first time in a championship. And it's got to have been a long time. I can't remember the last time Ferrari's been in championship contention in the Pro GT class in IMSA. I can't even remember.
Probably can't even remember the last time there was the full season effort from in the Pro class too. So,
anyways, you might have to whip out the calculator here for me.
I got it.
53.
I got it. Yeah,
Take it away.
53 points separates them. AO Racing, they're still hanging around there, but 191 points. That's a that's a big hill to climb with 2 rounds to go, and we we might see an additional GTD Pro entry on the grid at Indy. I can't recall really if we do usually see an 11th entry there. Maybe Proton. No, Proton wasn't at the Glen. They
Yeah,
just
they
did the
weren't
first
there.
couple rounds of the season.
I'm not expecting any.
Yeah, so we're probably stuck with these 10 entries. So that's a big hill to climb. You're going to need a lot to go your way, especially specifically with the number 3 Corvette, to really have a shot at this. But we've seen Rexy be really strong at Indy. I believe that they either won last year. I think they won here last year with the Roxy livery, though. So I know that they've been strong here at Indy in the next round in the past. So they're going to need a really good couple of races here to wrap up the season. And really anybody outside of that, you kind of need a miracle at this point. The 64 Ford is 233 points back. So they're probably just chasing wins at this point, whereas the real battle to focus on is going to be the Ferrari versus Corvette.
Yeah.
GTD is kind of it's not as close now with Windward winning that race. They had a strong qualifying effort as well, so they really improved their points lead here over the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. The gap there is at 171 points. The saving grace, though, here for GTD is that grid will definitely expand for the final 2 rounds of the season. So there's going to be a much larger point swing there. It means that 171 points is a lot of points to make up, but, a couple of strong qualifying efforts, some really strong race efforts, if the Heart of Racing can grab a win in there, then it could definitely make this championship interesting heading into Petit Le Mans. So it's not over yet, but it does look like it's probably a 2-horse race. Vassar Sullivan, that 12 Lexus, had a very mediocre VIR round, and it kind of cost them dearly in the championship here, with Windward having a great round. So not mathematically eliminated, but they kind of need a miracle at this point to jump back into it. So like I said, I do really think that the GTD Pro class is probably going to be one of, if not our best championship fight to watch for heading into the final rounds. That's, as you mentioned, the 2 most consistent cars going at it. It's who's going to be the first one to blink.
Yep. Well, and sort of contradicting that a little bit with the GTD class, when I'm looking at the full points board there, we haven't really seen a whole lot of consistency this season. I mean, you talk about Windward, they picked up their 3rd win of the season, but they've had some races in there, especially during this summer, where they haven't, Watkins Glen, they were well outside. This
Road America,
previous race, Road America, they finished 10th. You can sort of point to similar things with the 27, but I think for both of those teams, or for the entire class really, just us as fans, there's no guarantees for these next 2 races. And as you mentioned, with those uptick in entries, with those being endurance races, who knows? You could see a big swing still occur here.
Yeah, and the sheer number of different winners that we've seen in GTD over the season. I know I mentioned it with GTD Pro. We've still seen, I think, 6 different winners in the 8 races that we've had. We've had Windward that's won 3, but everybody else has just picked up a single win. So it's been a really good fight. We should see 19 entries, I believe, on the grid for the final 2 rounds here in GTD. 19 car classes with Korthoff now withdrawing, and like we could be in for still a good fight here. So could we see another new winner emerge in GTD? Would not be surprising at all. And then also I think we should at least mention that the Bob Akin Bronze Cup, the battle there is down to 2 cars It's down to the 13 AWA Corvette and the 70 Inception Racing Ferrari. The AWA Corvette got the better of the 70 in this last round. It's they have I think it's a one position gap, a 10-point advantage. AWA has in that award, so they're battling for the invitation to Le Mans. So that's going to be a battle to keep an eye on in the coming races as well, especially in these Endurance Cup rounds where the bronze driver still plays a significant role, but towards the final 2/3 of these races, we're really going to see the pro drivers going at it and competing for class wins. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch some of these battles in GTD.
Yeah, that Aiken points standings actually switched this race at VIR, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, we have the two teams that have won the award the past 2 seasons going at it. Yep. So with it being that close, just remember this is, it's a relatively small trophy in the IMSA championship, but it comes with a very big reward, which is that auto invite to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So you can take the better of that.
Yep.
All right. Any other comments from you going out of VIR?
No. I think that's it for VIR. It was, I think that it's a bit of a slept on round. VIR is, because we don't have any of the prototypes there. It's right in the middle of summer. People are preparing to go back to school or are already back at school. So it is kind of a round that can get a little bit slept on, I think. But I thought we saw some great racing in this. And I think it's shaping up, setting us up nicely for the final couple rounds of the year.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll say the same thing. All right, let's talk Beamer. Let's talk Beamer right now. We've sort of a surprise one, to be honest with you, at least for me. I had no expectation of this happening. But we got a reveal last week of a new look for BMW for the M Hybrid V8 for the 2026 season. We're going to be seeing that car. Honey, I shrunk the kidney
the
grill. Yeah, honey, I shrunk the sniffer. Bit of a different look for the front of that car for the 26 season. Like I said, notably reduction in size of the grille on the front. They also have a new front splitter as well, which is just more geared towards aerodynamics. And then they're also changing the headlights as well. Saw the car on track for some testing shots at Paul Ricard, which is actually a bit uncommon for a Dallara chassis car. Usually we would see some of the Orica chassis cars testing there, of course, with the French connection. Yep. Dallara is a bit uncommon there, but nonetheless, where they decided to do that rollout, and we'll be seeing that car on track for the first time, the updated car on track for the first time at Daytona in January. Let's get your thoughts on it first here. I'm sort of curious to see what you think of a car that, when it came out, had some jokes made about it, but maybe a bit more mature now. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this is like the mature. It's graduated its first. It has a degree now. It's getting all dressed up, professional to go out into the real racing world.
It's gonna be his 4th season, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I don't know. Like it looks sharp. I think, it looks nice. It's going to be cool to see that heading into the Rolex, everything that goes along with it. But, really what is the impact of this going to be on performance? That with it being a BOP class, performance wise and pure speed wise, there's probably going to be minimal impact on this. But I guess it's going to be revolving around, how can they unlock more consistent performance out of that car? Is this are these aero changes going to be impacting the handling? I assume that it's going to affect the handling of the car, and they're trying to improve some aspects there of it and make it a little bit more competitive at a lot of the tracks. So going to be interesting to see how these changes trickle down to the actual performance of the car. and we're not gonna know until, you know, probably this time next year really what the impacts of those are. And at that time, we're gonna have completely forgotten that BMW made these changes to the car, likely. So it's fun. It's always fun to see the manufacturers releasing, you know, these upgrades, these updates. BMW, this I think is their second Evo upgrade that they've done. I believe that they had one going into the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
But it was not aerodynamic related like this one is. So I assume that this is going to be they're going to be burning a joker on this if it's aerodynamic changes. I think that's probably pretty obvious at this point. But yeah, I don't know. It's cool to see, but it's probably not going to make a huge impact for all of us anyways. It's not like BMW is all of a sudden going to be the insane car to beat going into next year. I think hopefully they're able to improve on what they've done this year, but yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like this is the most significant styling change we've seen come out of a Joker upgrade, but that wouldn't be true because of course the 9X8
that's true.
beat it a little
out
bit
of an LMDH car.
From an LMDH, certainly.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the Joker upgrades that we hear about are behind the scenes things that fans are not going to notice on the car. Even the most keen-eyed people, a lot of these changes have to do with the brakes, the cooling, the aerodynamics, things that are so minor that you're not going to actually see a physical difference. Yeah, a little bit different appearance on the car for next year. I'll be honest, I was just sort of getting used to the big nose on the M Hybrid V8, so it's going to take a little bit of time to go away from that, but you know, I don't have any objections to the way the car looks. I will say one thing I'm interested in is the headlights. I mentioned they are changing those in the testing shots. They're really quite small headlights that I personally don't think look as good as they have on the existing car. But it looks like they might still have sort of the outlet or the
like the endurance lights.
No, like the space where the rest of the lights would fill in. So I don't know if that's just what they were running in testing, or if that's just the part of the bodywork itself.
I see.
But yeah, just kind of curious to see how they handle the headlight situation on that car because it is significantly smaller than what we're seeing on the current car. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I have a whole lot else to discuss on the appearance of the car itself. I don't know if you have anything you want to throw in.
I was getting a laugh here at Ray in the live stream chat. If you guys have questions or anything, don't forget to drop those questions, your thoughts on all of these into the chat. But Ray was saying they basically put a smaller nose on to cover the original big nose. Thought that was pretty funny. That made me think that you know, the BMW got a nose job this off season. So quite funny. And Milton pointed out that BMW said the new nose should improve cooling efficiency, which theoretically should improve reliability, which has not been good in the WEC this year. I guess cooling would be big at some of the hotter races that especially at the warmer races that M Hybrid V8 is traveling to, you know, in the Middle East, in the middle of upstate New York, in the, you know.
Well, I don't know which one you'd be talking about. Not the one that you've had the privilege of getting stuck in the hot humidity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Past couple of years. Past many years at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how time has flown, and now Watkins Glen is just a regular in the middle of the summer for me.
It's like me ending up in Atlanta every single year. Just, how did I get here?
Ending up at Atlanta in October. That's the place everybody wants to be in October, right?
Sorry to go off rails, but bring back the November date, all right? 2021 was kind of fun. Like I was
that the freezing?
Chilling. It was the middle of November. It was essentially pushed back 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But I was chilling, you know,
literally
but I had the jacket on. You know, my hands were a bit cold, but I just, you know, stuck it out the last couple hours of the race. But we had like 4 hours of darkness in that race, which was really interesting, especially with that one being my first Petit Le Mans. It was like a completely different feel. Crazy the difference a month makes. Anyways.
See, we are two people that coming from, the climates that we're used to in the wintertime, we're not gonna bat an eye at a bit of a chillier race weekend either. So
Yeah, but I'll bat an eye when it's 80 degrees at Daytona in January, or 95 at Sebring in March. Take
guys,
that away, man.
we're dying here at the Rolex.
It's a joke. Daytona's fine. Sebring's a joke.
Yeah. One of these years I'll make it to Sebring, and yeah, I'm not looking forward to like 95 degrees at that time.
Yeah. Anyway, we're off rails.
Yeah.
We're talking about weather here.
Yep. That's usually a sign.
I think you got all your comments in about the Beamer.
Yeah. Yep. No more Beamer thoughts. Oh, but before we move off of I guess that whole new rollout stuff, Mr. Waffles also mentioned here, speaking of Paul Ricard, Genesis looking good testing there.
Yeah.
So a couple of LMDH cars doing some laps around the French circuit, and we actually got some video that I don't know if we've talked about of the Genesis that's come out. Sounds good.
Sounds like the Glickenhaus.
Yeah, yeah, true. But good to see that program has progressed to the on-track testing. It seems like that's pretty much on schedule there.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even really think about that, but for a rollout in summer, they're pretty much right where they would want to be. Start racking up some long distance miles on that car. And of course, we'll be seeing its first on-track activity next year. So.
Yeah, I think this is kind of in line with where the Cadillac was when they rolled out. I think they started to hit the track for testing in August. I know this is not a good comparison. Hopefully the Genesis doesn't follow the same fate, but Lamborghini was around this time as well for testing.
Well, as long as Genesis doesn't bin the car.
They made their test at Paul Ricard, right? So now you think that they didn't wreck the car at Paul Ricard, like
go to the place with the extremely long runoff.
Yeah, that's actually kind of wild. But yeah, good that we're getting good testing progress news out of the Genesis camp.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with a little bit of a link here. You're not gonna see it coming. Genesis IMSA. Bryan Herta Autosport is racing an LMP2 next year. Let's talk about this one a little bit. Of course, a long-standing team from the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. We've seen them with championship campaigns over with the TCR car there. Good friend of the show, Aaron Pfeiffer, who I did hound on see if he wanted to join the show tonight. Said he was busy, but he will be in for a future episode most likely. So
busy.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah, you can give him crap for that on photos. Anyways, seeing this team step up not only to IMSA WeatherTech Championship next year, but making the step up to the LMP2 class, which is about as different as you can get from a TCR car, I think. I think it's probably even more different than maybe a GTP car, to be honest with you, with how much lighter they are.
Yeah.
But do you see the writing on the wall that I see here?
Oh, I think a lot of people are putting those puzzle pieces together. I think that this, we saw Genesis. What do they do? And what are they doing in the European Le Mans Series this season? Well, they are running an LMP2 car, and with the intent of building up a crew that is going to run that car in the WEC. What does this look like a natural progression to over here stateside? Well, we have a team in Bryan Herta Autosports that has been linked to Hyundai or was basically Genesis for a long time. They are the Hyundai team for North America. And what do we see them doing now? Well, they're preparing an LMP2 car to race in IMSA next year. And what could that be? Building up a crew to compete with the Genesis in GTP later on. So they moved into a new shop recently as well that would be able to accommodate. Now, maybe not that their old shop maybe wasn't able to accommodate this, but new shop, be able to accommodate sort of that additional factory program and factory support that this would be. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at this and say, I wonder if we're going to get an official announcement here before too long. Maybe even ahead of Bryan Herta Autosport's home race at Indianapolis in a couple of weeks. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, it would
That's
be.
pure speculation. I have absolutely nothing to back that up. I know I want to make sure
you got
that's clear.
Aaron peeping in your ear here and
Pure
feeding you info.
speculation.
You're going to disclose this?
Well, they're not going to have Aaron affiliated with that car. I don't think they want him. I don't think they want him. But another friend of the show, Andrew Kissinger,
put him
that's
on that.
Regularly in the chat here. He has worked with a GTP program that was with the BMW program a couple of years ago. So some experience there. Could there could be something cooking here. There's something cooking for sure at Bryan Herta Autosports for next year, but there could be something in the slow cooker for a couple seasons down the road.
Yeah, of course, interested to see what the driver lineup looks like in that car. Of course, with this being an LMP2 entry, you cannot just throw the kitchen sink at it and have an all-platinum driver lineup. They are going to have to compile a Pro-Am driver lineup there for next season. Curious to see if they try to dip into who they're currently running in the TCR car, maybe for that lower ranked driver, and then would expect maybe a Hyundai factory driver or somebody that they haven't announced yet to take that car up for the platinum or gold driver rank. A lot to come though for this one. It's only a one car program, not right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't even know if there's room for more than one more LMP2 entry, on the grid. So, yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I think no matter what happens, I know it's going to be a new car on the grid next year, but talk about a team with a lot of experience in IMSA. This is a completely different scenario than somebody joining LMP2 out of the blue, as we've seen with some teams this year. This is a team that is absolute veterans in IMSA. I know the rule book doesn't carry over 1-to-1 between Pilot Challenge and the WeatherTech Championship, but a team that is seasoned and familiar with the regulations for IMSA as a championship and or as a sanctioning body rather, and would expect them to get off to a strong start for next year.
Yeah, and if Aaron says if only they had a good strategist. Yeah, exactly. Guy they have is a bum now. But you look at like Bryan Herta Autosport, like it is you see it walking through the paddock, like it's very obvious looking at them, even comparing them to some of the current WeatherTech teams, and it's like they are you could easily see them excelling as soon as they hit the ground, as soon as they hit the track at the Rolex next year. You got to imagine that they're going to be figuring out that LMP2 car pretty quickly. There's a great team of men and women there, so you could easily look at them immediately jumping into LMP2 as championship threats next year, and should be fun to watch them there. It's going to be interesting to see, as you said, the driver lineup for next year, and who's the bronze driver going to be. That usually dictates a lot, especially in LMP2. With it being the bronze driver requirement. So should be fun to see more news emerge about this program over the coming months. And also fun that we're seeing team announcements already, 2026 announcements. It's gets earlier and earlier every year.
Well, you're going to be hearing a lot more about it because would we be expecting the full season entry list at Road Atlanta most likely?
I have not looked at when the entry deadline is, so I would assume that it's going to be similar timeline to last year. That IMSA likes to announce these things at some of their big races, so yeah.
Well, it's usually Petit Le Mans is when we get the full season entry list. At least last year it was.
Well, last year it was, yeah.
And then Daytona, they comes at a later date, obviously, with there being extra cars.
Yep. Yeah, should be exciting.
Yep, I think you and I are hitting on a lot of the same points there. Bryan Herta Autosport. Going to be interested to see how they fare up next year. By the way, the only team in TCR in the Pilot Challenge who has told me basically take these snacks because they are very hospitable over there when you're going over and filming some video content with them. So maybe we'll continue that relationship. But
you see, it's easy to buy your love, isn't it? You know, just
hand me a bag of Welch's fruit snacks. It's all, and we're not sponsored yet, but yeah, that's a pretty good way to get things going.
It is.
Shout out Katie there.
Yeah.
All right, we're going off piste here again.
Mr. Waffles made a good point, and you know, this is probably regardless of whether Bryan Herta Autosport gets a Genesis program or not, but we can probably expect Colton Herta to be in, you know, he could be in most of the Endurance Cup rounds next year in that car. So
we'll see. Colton Herta might be an F2 next year.
He might be. Yes, I saw that rumor as well. So I don't know.
We'll see on that one. That'll be interesting. But yeah, driver who has some P2 experience already in IMSA, Rolex 24 race winner in a significantly different car. But yeah, it'd be good to see Colton back in a prototype, especially maybe just for Daytona. But if we can get him in for other endurance rounds as well, that would also be great.
Yeah, it'd be a good fourth driver for sure. Although I know he was contracted with BMW, but who knows what that is like for fourth driver duties.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I had. Oh, there's one more thing. You know, with us getting sidetracked and talking about temperature at Petit Le Mans, going off the rails the first time, I did miss a point I wanted to bring up with BMW. Not official yet, but Daily SportsCar is reporting it, which is about as good as official as you're going to find in most cases. I'll link that full story below. But where they were talking about the 2026 car and those styling changes that we've seen there, they did report that we can expect to see a 2-car program in both series full-time, both run, of course, by WRT as we were expecting, which is really a piece of good news. On the WEC side of things, we weren't really expecting any change there.
Yeah.
But for the IMSA side...
Well, they can't really change, right?
Yeah, kind of have their hands tied. On the IMSA side, nice to see that they're at least expecting a 2-car program there for the full season, which, of course, wasn't a given after the announcement from Ray Hall a couple of months back.
Yeah, that's a good piece of information to have. Yeah, it was definitely, there was some concern with them. There was a question. There still is kind of, I guess, a bit of a question mark around Porsche, although that seems to be
for next year they'll be
squashed. There. Yeah. But yeah, good that we'll still see those two slightly smaller big sniffers on the IMSA grid next year.
Don't bully them out of the class. We already got them with the big M8.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
going to a couple of chat messages here. I think you were about to plug for some more. But
yeah, this is your final call. If you have a question you want answered this episode, then now
we're already under the regular show time. You can prime us for the next 30 minutes, and then we'll be on track. But
yeah, we don't really know what to do with ourselves.
Milton Valenzuela. Saying, I think McLaren is primed to shine in the WEC. They said publicly to the race that they have 10 months of testing. 10? Really? On-track testing? I wouldn't believe. But testing the powertrain?
Is it? I mean, would it be feasible to get that done? That car? Well, they're not debuting. Is McLaren debuting next year, or is it 2027 debut?
2027.
I mean, that could be feasible, right?
Well, they have 10 months of prior testing. Like that's
no. They would. I read this as maybe there's a mix-up that they have or that they will have 10 months of testing scheduled, like because that lines up for what, like a April, May testing debut next year with that car. And then they'd have 10 months before the start of the season. So maybe, I don't know. Where'd you find that information, Milton?
Well, it said it was on the race, but
Oh, it was on the race. Sorry, Milton. I didn't read your whole message.
Bryan heard Autosport tell me you're running the Genesis GTP without telling me you're running the Genesis GTP. Yeah, that's
accurate.
And of course, Mr. Waffle's correcting us here because you and I have been taking misses this episode.
Did he?
But Colton did race for Acura last year.
Did he?
Yeah.
With who? With Wayne Taylor?
Wayne Taylor. Yeah.
I don't remember this.
Some of the endurance races, yeah.
I don't remember this. Who did he race with this year at the Rolex? Was he in a P2 this year?
Was he at the Rolex this year?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Pull up Wikipedia. We got time.
No Wikipedia here. Taking the...
You on the IMSA drivers page?
No, actually. I'm going to just Control F the points. Herta. There is a match. It was in LMP2, and he was there at Daytona.
This year?
With
who?
Malthe Jakobsen. And what's that, the CrowdStrike car?
I believe
so.
George Kurtz in the car?
Yeah, that was George Kurtz. Yeah, he was there with George.
Okay, so yeah, CrowdStrike.
What did he do? I'm having a very difficult time believing that he...
Don't make me look like a fool here. I'm pulling it up.
He was with Acura last year, because I just remember him being associated with BMW.
Well, I don't think he hasn't been with BMW for a few years.
Yeah. He raced with Jordan Taylor and Louis Delatraz at the Rolex last year.
I knew that sounded familiar. Okay. Yeah, because he has the affiliation with Honda. But he's essentially a Honda driver.
Oh yeah, because he raced the 3 long races with them last year.
Yeah. So the affiliation with
You're
BMW
right, Mr. Waffles. Chat is always right. Chat is always right.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, there we go. He was in the BMW, the Acura that won Sebring last year. We are horrible, man. How are we doing this show? We're phoning this in so hard.
We have so much to remember. There's 4 different
so many drivers,
classes.
So many cars. You got part-time drivers, full-time, part-time entries, full-time. You know what? From now on, I'm just going to cover Formula E.
Yeah.
So the last episode you're going to get where this is an IMSA WEC podcast.
Lots of action going over there. You know, manufacturers coming and going and drivers coming and going.
A lot of clashes with the WEC.
True. Yeah, we complain about clashes. Let's look at them.
All right.
There's a couple
more, yeah. Speaking of BMW and Porsche, what happened to the Vantor Brothers podcast? Completely missing in action. I didn't know that. I haven't really paid attention to the fact that maybe they were too scared of competing with this wonderful show we've got going on here that they just knew they couldn't hold a candle, and they said, pull the plug on it. But I'm not sure otherwise. The two of them are actually... they've been racing up against each other in GTP for certain races. I know
pretty successful too.
Yeah, I know Well, I can't say I know Dries is full time in IMSA this year, and Lawrence is over in the WEC. But they have had some on track battles with each other, and of course, it's not just over in the GTP ranks; it carries over for some of the GT races internationally as well. So maybe the rivalry got too strong. Who knows?
I think I saw...
Can't be worse than when they took each other out at the Nürburgring a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I thought I saw like a tweet or something that they were responding to somebody asking when they were going to put out another episode, and they're like, it's just difficult to find the time to edit everything, and they were looking for somebody to edit basically. But that may be why. Maybe who asked this question? Kevin, maybe you can go and edit the podcast for them, and they'll get more out. I'm voluntolding you.
Hopefully Vassar Sullivan can win a race this season and get a good send-off for the RCF.
True.
Yeah, they're waiting on one. If the new car comes for next year, unless they want to keep testing with it. But yeah, no, that's a good point.
They've won one though.
I was thinking specifically in Pro.
Yeah. They've had a lot of... They have not...
Oh, they did win. No, sorry.
No, they don't have a win. They have a lot of second place finishes though with that car. They had 3 second place finishes in a row for the 12.
Yeah, but then the recent races haven't really played up quite
Yeah.
as well for them.
Yeah, they've slipped a little bit. The GTD Pro entry. You want to talk about a team that's had horrible luck this year? It's that 14 team, like former GTD Pro champions, and man, oh man, they cannot buy a break. But the beauty of IMSA is that you can always bounce back in the next race. So, but Aaron says the Lexus can't win endurance rounds, so why start now? They won Petite a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Oh,
Pretty sure.
You already know we're not good enough for this. A couple of years ago, we can't remember last year.
No, I feel like it was like 2 years ago or something that they won Petite.
The only thing I remember about a couple of years ago is one of them went off in the S's, and I remember specifically making that joke in 23.
Oh yeah, they took the big gouge out of the front of the car, right? And had to retire.
Yeah.
Where's the results?
Andrew's saying they won Sebring.
Okay, there you go.
I just don't remember what year.
There you go, Aaron.
Thanks, Andrew.
We got the Bryan Herta Autosports guys now.
We need a stats guy on this show. Who's good at stats? Because you and I can't remember Jack, and if we can't remember stats, what are we good for?
You can't trust Andrew's facts. You know what? The image that's in my head might have been one when Vasser Sullivan won the GT Pro Championship, because I remember seeing one of those, like an image of them on the podium at Road Atlanta. So maybe that was it. Maybe they haven't won it, but yeah, they've won Sebring for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. What do you think? Should we? Do you have one more?
Was there one more? No, maybe. No, I think that was it. We're going off the rails quick. So, they won GTD at Petite in 2023. No, that was the 78 Forte racing car, Aaron. So, you're wrong. I have the results up from that race. Vasser Sullivan finished 16th in the 19 car class that year.
I was going to ask Aaron if he wanted to be.
Oh, now
GTD
he says
Pro. Oh,
nope, that was Danny Hunkadea, Jules Gugnon, and Mauro Engel in the 79 WeatherTech Racing Mercedes. So,
2024 Sebring. Thanks, Andrew. You want to be our stats guy? We can.
And Vasser Sullivan.
I was gonna give it to Aaron, but he's been tossed out from that one.
Yeah, Aaron was way off there. The 14 finished last in GTD Pro in the 2023 Road Atlanta race. So you think we're bad at stats? I don't know. Aaron might be worse.
We'll get better at that over the off season. We'll try to at least. But anyways, we got 2 more races to cover in IMSA for the rest of this season. We got 3 more in the WEC. Next race up for both championships would be WEC at COTA in a couple of weeks' time. It's actually next Saturday, Sunday. I don't even know what day that race is.
It's the weekend after Labor Day, because I think we went through this whole thing on the last episode.
So it is Sunday then. Right? I think it's Sunday.
Yeah,
either way,
I believe so.
We'll be back to recap that show.
Or
to recap that episode. No, we'll get this right. Recap that race. My God. And that's in a couple weeks' time. And then, of course, after that, we have IMSA at Indy. We've got we've got Fuji would be after that, WC. Then we've got Petit Le Mans. And then we've got Bahrain.
Yes, sir.
We got some time to rest and fix these brains up a little bit, because clearly we're off the rail here a little bit on this one. But anyways, if you did enjoy this show, congrats to you. We hope to see you in a couple of weeks' time for another episode where we're going to be recapping the WC race at COTA and plenty more to come. So thanks for checking into this episode. Hope to see you in 2 weeks. Take care.